Do you hear that?
Hear what?
There's somebody out front.
Let me go check.
Who's that big? Is Samoa Joe on your front porch?
He looks dangerous.
Milwaukee!
Milwaukee! Milwaukee! Milwaukee!
Dance break! That's what you can do.
It might be our worst open ever if we use that.
The following contest scheduled for one fall is for the NXT Championship.
I got the gift again and the gift of jab, and I'll put that lazy eye right back to work.
Any man with two hands has a fighting chance.
That's Luke Gallows there on the right. That's Carl Anderson. Anderson and Gallows are here.
Look at Nia having a little fun, sending a message to the entire women's division.
Delete! 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 Delete!
Oh, really? I'm not allowed in your little huddle?
No, sir.
Really?
No.
You know what? Big E, you just made the list!
Oh, no. Yes!
I'm Shonny Constant.
My name is Mr. Bean.
We are basking in the glory of the opulent Russell Palace chandelier.
How do you remember that every week?
It's the only thing that I have to remember. My whole life is devoted to simply remembering that line. And as longtime listeners will recognize, I don't remember it every week.
You remember it much clearer than I do. That's for sure. Welcome to the One Fall Show. And, man, who would have thought? I feel like I say this every week, but who would have thought?
That you and I would be able to take out Samoa Joe?
Even a week
Not
ago.
me, that's for sure. But he has been dispatched.
Yeah. Well, all he wanted to know was directions to like the nearest comic store.
I should not have kicked him in the Jimmy.
Yeah. No, it was a little bit rude. But who would have thought a week ago that, I mean, we already knew we loved R-Truth, but who would have thought we would have gotten peak R-Truth?
Right.
What a fabulous surprise this week.
I know. And it dawned on me that with the mixed match challenge continuing to go in a round robin fashion this time rather than single elimination, my fears that we were seeing the last of R-Truth were exaggerated. We have at least one more chance to see the fabulous truth.
Oh, okay. So you expected that they were going to lose on Tuesday.
Once
and then
they lost,
we were
I
not going
thought,
to be.
oh, that's it. And they're like, oh, wait, no.
Oh, no.
Oh,
They'll
no.
be back.
I love them opening the show.
Oh, fantastic.
Truth TV was a delight.
Yeah, I hate to like get right to the dessert before we even eat the full meal, but Truth TV at the top of SmackDown was absolutely the highlight of the week.
It was so much fun that when The Miz, who is, obviously a personal favorite of mine, won the TV battle,
yes,
signaling the end of Truth TV, I was already disappointed and decided I was going to miss it.
So for those of you who just listen to us instead of watching the show, or just to get your highlights, first of all, thank you very much for downloading us on iTunes and everything like that and giving us all the stars. But SmackDown opened the show this week with R-Truth and Carmella, who are fighting in the Mixed Match Challenge as the Fabulous Truth. And Truth, who had defeated The Miz a couple of weeks ago here in Detroit, had decided that because Miz didn't have a championship, but he had a TV show, then he must have won the TV show.
That was outstanding. That reveal was so damn funny. Sometimes you laugh just because, you're sitting and looking for entertainment, so you laugh.
Yeah.
Sometimes something just rips the laugh out of you.
Oh, yeah. and there were multiple times in that like little 10 to 15 minutes.
Yes.
Where R-Truth would say something, or even Daniel Bryan would say something because he was the first guest of Truth TV, where just something off the wall would happen. Whoever wrote that segment, my hat goes off to you.
And it was offhanded stuff like Carmella has now dyed her hair to her original color, and when he says He says you were confusing
You were
people.
confusing people. Or Daniel Bryan having to explain to Truth what catharsis is.
Yes.
And Truth going like, well, I know what it is, but for everyone who doesn't, why don't you tell them? My favorite was when The Miz called him an idiot, and he got this huge grin on his face. He's like, I'm an idiot with a TV show?
Yes. Great comeback.
Oh, it was fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff. And it was, like I said last week, like some of my favorite stuff in the last couple of weeks hasn't even been a wrestling match. It's just been a really entertaining interaction.
We're hitting this interesting phase, right, where we'd talked in the past, Meteora, about the fact that we have these two, like, essentially house shows that they're spending a lot of time working angles towards.
Sure.
But they're also working heavily these angles towards the mixed match challenge. So we're in this weird time where you had this big stuff popping off with the Universal title, and then after 2 weeks of just great Raw stuff, we're now like in this octopus of tentacles reaching towards strange,
like multiple things that you're not quite sure. It's not like you're building towards a Survivor Series yet,
right, or
even a Royal Rumble or a WrestleMania. You're not even building towards like a Hell in a Cell. You're building towards like, hey, we're doing this thing on next Saturday in Australia, and then we're going to go back to Saudi Arabia, and hey, we're going to have our first women's thing, but that's still at least about 3 or 4 weeks out. So, there's definitely the implication of like, we got to concentrate on the thing that's right in front of us. But there's, like you said, there's like these tentacles of like, yeah, there's the thing right in front of us, but then 2 weeks later, there's another thing. And then 2 weeks after that is another thing. So we need to make sure all these things are coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's this never-ending promotion for things to come. And
right.
But it's working right now because we have the Truth and Carmella stuff has been a lot of fun. Obviously, we have Becky going full heel.
Yeah.
And while it is in conjunction with a rivalry with Charlotte, I think the full appeal of the thing right now is just purely us seeing how Becky develops as a heel, right?
Exactly. I think you would probably have a similar reaction if we were watching Bayley do her big heel turn. It's like, all right, let's see. If it, and especially if it was working in the same way that this Becky Lynch angle is working. What are those road cases made out of? For God's sakes. Charlotte can wrestle a 30-minute match with Becky and show up the next week on, like the next week on SmackDown, but you run her head into a road case 3 times and take some pictures over her body, and
she's just done.
That's it. We're sending her home.
A road case match.
There we go. Yeah. It's like a casket match. You just got to stuff your opponent in the road case.
The devastating road case. And mail them off to those enemies at the other company
in Abu Dhabi.
No, what's the other company?
Oh, Impact Wrestling.
Impact Wrestling. Yeah, they're not enemies anymore. What's it?
I saw you share that this morning.
It's a strange headline.
Yeah,
like the funny thing about the fractal nature of wrestling entertainment media, which we are this sad little corner of, is that
I like to think our corner is very, very jovial.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I'm in a mood. I when I said sad, I meant to say jovious. Which I think is a combination of jovial and
glorious.
Glorious.
It's jovious.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a meeting, and the coming out of the meeting is that nothing has been signed, but we are not enemies anymore. I didn't really know they were enemies. I mean, other than the fact that anyone who is doing a wrestling thing is, I guess, by nature of the history of the of the medium, is an enemy of Vince McMahon,
right? Well,
because he will eventually buy you out or squash you,
right? It's kind of, I think it's the idea of like it's always competition, and I've heard the theory multiple times from different people, whether it's in wrestling or in any other type of competition or business. It's like, if you're number 2, then you constantly call out number 1, but if you're number 1, number 2 doesn't even exist.
Right. Yeah, makes all the sense in the world. And yeah, so to that extent, it is interesting, right? It is interesting that Triple H went to visit with the High Muckety Mucks over at Impact.
Yeah,
I don't know what it means. I
mean, they've been saying for over a year now that they want the dirt sheets. When I say they, pronouns, pal. The dirt sheets have been saying for a while that they want the Broken Hardy stuff. Like
I thought they had gotten it.
they are not. They had gotten to run some of it when they did the Hardys thing for the network, but obviously they want more of it. They want the complete Broken Hardy saga so that they can make some kind of DVD set or something, or host another thing. And again, once the network had started, we'd heard that they were in talks with like Progress, and even there was rumors that they were in talks with Ring of Honor of like, look, we want to be the end all be all for wrestling. So we got a lot of time to fill. And we got a lot of archives to put in there, and tape library is where it's at. And if you're the top of the game in pro wrestling, so if whatever we can get, so we can put on the network.
Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world, because I recently watched one of the AJ Styles little retrospectives, and it was very good. But of course, it only goes back 2 years.
Yeah.
So it would. Having all of that material for the Samoa Joe AJ Styles,
sure.
that one would be prime.
Yeah.
And so in very specific, in the moment type thing. I guess I get that more. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And it was nice when the something else to wrestle was on the network. They did a couple episodes. They did the episode about CM Punk, which was the end of it. Had some of his Ring of Honor stuff in there that they got the rights to. When they did the AJ Styles stuff, they talked very extensively about his time in TNA kind of thing. So it's there's just little inroads being made here and there. But what a meeting between the two could mean for the future, who knows?
Yeah, have you been watching any of the Impact stuff?
I have not watched Impact in weeks. I'm wearing my Rosemary shirt that I finally got from Pro Wrestling Tees. They were really swamped after All In. So,
makes sense.
It took them about a month to get my Rosemary shirt to me. But ever since she's been on the shelf, I've just been like,
Yeah, the word on the street is that the show has been fantastic in these last several weeks. But
yeah.
Without your favorite star, I can understand. With all the with all the wrestling to watch.
Exactly. And like we've said before, the network definitely lends itself to like, hey, well, we're gonna give you the Mae Young Classic, and are you watching NXT? And hey, something cool happened on 205 Live, and here's something else to wrestle. Here's a photo shoot show. Here's a show about the music. It's just so much.
It can keep you entertained, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a ton of material on there that I'm like, when I see that it's there, I think, well, they have 10 episodes of that thing? I didn't even know that thing was a thing.
Yeah. In fact, I this past week, when I had some spare time, when I was in between a little bit of insomnia, pulled up the network and looked up Primetime Wrestling, which was what the USA Network aired before Raw.
Okay.
And it was Bobby the Brain Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon would do these segments in a studio, and then they would shift to matches that were pre-taped, kind of thing. And I had listened to a Something to Wrestle podcast that had talked about the production of it, and remember this, like, man, when I was a kid, that was the shit.
Yes,
like,
I vaguely remember that.
Every Thursday night or Monday night or something like that, just putting wrestling on the TV for 2 hours and, seeing Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan. And it's been a long time. And I looked it up. I was like, hey, it's there.
Nice.
But yeah, there's just, once again, for your $9.99, if you're a casual fan, then hey, you get the pay-per-views for $10 instead of $30 or $40 or $50.
Right.
But if you're a huge fan, if you live and breathe wrestling, there's an inexhaustible amount of content in there, and that's before you even watch TV, before you even watch Raw and SmackDown,
which is exhaustible.
Which can be exhaustible for sure. Somebody sent me, let me see if I can pull it up. Somebody sent me like an internet meme, and it was a list of like 9 things, and it's like you can pick 3 of these things to bring back, and one of the things on it was like Raw goes back to 2 hours, but the other things on it were so good I couldn't justifiably pick it.
Oh wow!
So let me pull it up. Let's start delving into Monday Night Raw, and I'll pull it up and interrupt you when I find it.
All right. Well, the big story of the night, I think, was that they're sowing the seeds of discontent between Dean Ambrose and the Shield, and then in return, Drew McIntyre and the not officially named Dogs of War.
Yes.
So that storyline is continuing to move. I thought that
I'm sorry to interrupt you so quickly. Does it matter to you whether or not Braun, Drew, and Dolph are like have a team name or a faction name?
Nah.
No.
I mean, only in as much as if it was to usher in an age of factions, right?
Sure.
I want my gang war. I want my mob wars.
Yeah.
But if we're not getting that, then no, I'm fine with it. And then we had Drew and McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler put on a really good match with the Revival, but I'm just kind of bored with them.
Yeah.
This is, yeah, I mean, that's on me because they put on a hell of a match, I have to say. Like, objectively speaking, they did a great job.
Yeah, like I said last week, it's a really weird time when you can look at 4 talents like Dolph Ziggler, Drew McIntyre, Dean Ambrose, and Seth Rollins and be like, I've seen it. Because it's turning into what Sheamus and Randy Orton. Where it's like, seen it. Seen it multiple times. But I do have to say that match between the Revival and Drew McIntyre, Dolph Ziggler, one of 2 spots that I've either never seen before or haven't seen in so long that I forgot, where Drew McIntyre essentially picked up one of the guys in the Revival, I believe it was Dash Wilder, from like a seated position into a vertical suplex.
He is very strong.
Very strong. It's easy to forget that because you don't see him like use his upper body power very often. He uses that Claymore kick very often.
Right.
You know, and he's very tall, but he's in the ring with a lot of guys who are very tall and very built. So every now and again, you know, it's nice to see a spot like that and go, oh yeah, that guy is really strong.
Yeah, we have not really. We don't know if we've scratched the surface on his potential yet because he's come in this very specific role and he's maintaining it very well, but we're not seeing growth out of it.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting to see if and how he develops or if he becomes Sheamus, you know, that sort of one note.
Sure. Which,
you know, if, you know, will he have to resort to a funny haircut at some point simply to shake up his career?
Or coming out on Instagram to let everybody know that he does not like Total Divas. We're not watching that shite. Anybody who doesn't know, on Rusev's Instagram, he was live doing a live video or something like that and saying something about they were going to rewatch an episode of Total Divas, and off camera you hear Sheamus yell, "We're not watching that shite again." And everyone thought it was great. Yeah, so obviously we've got the Dean and Drew stuff, and you know, everyone can look at the picture of the Shield, and one of these things is not like the other. You know, Roman's got the heavyweight title, Seth has the Intercontinental title. They both held up belts, and Dean just looks mean. Yeah,
and they've done a really neat job. You know, we had heard the rumors that Dean may come back as a heel.
Yeah,
but instead we're seeing this sort of building, developing story, and they're executing it very well. Of course, for me, the trick is going to be: do they, you know, execute? Do they over execute?
Yeah. Well, I think they'll tease it for quite a long time. I know that one of the things that I personally read on the dirt sheets is that the run with the Shield we're getting now is the run we were going to get last year before Dean went down with injury.
Okay.
So they are not looking to bust up the Shield immediately at any time. Obviously, that's dirt sheet rumor. So, you know, next week Dean could turn on the guys.
Right.
You know, next week Roman could turn on the guys. Who knows? That's a good question, actually. If Roman were the one to turn on the Shield this time around, do you think that would get him over finally? We'd be booing him, but now we'd be booing him because we're supposed to.
Yeah, that'd be tricky. Yeah, right. So do people cheer him just simply because they want to annoy him?
Right.
Is that what?
Because they don't cheer him like we cheer Becky because we
question.
think it's great that you're breaking up the Shield. But, you know, how do you...
Yeah, like how does... These smarks have booed him for so long. How do they boo him harder when he does something that they dislike more, right? Which is go after the Shield. That's a great point. It's a great question. It's really the Blob, you know, versus the Juggernaut.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to tell. But yeah, he would be so reviled.
Just absolutely.
It might actually just get dangerous at that point. You know, it might get to the where you just...
Some like NWO level stuff where people are throwing stuff in the ring.
Yeah.
Haven't seen that in a long, long time. I always wondered why that was a thing in the WCW days of the NWO. Like, they would end every show for so long with just people chucking stuff in the ring.
Yeah, they don't.
But then, you know, like you wouldn't see that during the Attitude Era very much over on the WWE side. Like their security was tighter or something. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it definitely added to the whole, you know, crowd taking over kind of mentality. Or like, man, it's like a riot out there.
Sure, yeah, that harkens back to sort of the ECW kind of
absolutely
stuff, which seems like a lot of fun when you're in it. But then when you're out of it and you're looking at it, you're like, oh, that's dangerous.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like all those a couple of weeks ago when Mick Foley had that special on the network talking about Hell in a Cell, or, you know, where they were showing the highlights of Mick Foley and The Undertaker's Hell in a Cell. And you're like, okay, the first time I saw that, I was entertained and I was like, wow, that's impressive. Now I see it and I'm horrified that human being is still alive and it's a miracle that he's in the state he is in.
Yes,
and not in a worse position.
Agreed.
Do you want to get to the bad news? Speaking of worst positions.
Yeah. Connor won.
I love that you call him Big Bird. You're not wrong. But I love that you call him Big Bird over Duck Butt in the notes right there. So, hey, you know what? Chad Gable, to me, it makes sense. Chad Gable is a scrappy underdog guy. He dresses like a Steiner brother from the middle to late 80s. He's a great technical wrestler kind of thing. But Connor is just big. Mm-hmm. He's a big dude.
Yeah.
What was it, a month ago or something like that, when they were pulling apart, I think, Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman or something like that, and Connor was part of that. And I'm like, Connor's about the size of Braun Strowman.
Very large man, yes. 4 weeks this thing's been going on. It's weird because it's just a sideshow.
Yeah.
Like it's literally 5 minutes every week, so it's almost completely irrelevant. It's like filler. It's
a C story to be sure.
Yeah.
And I finally I don't know why this hadn't occurred to me in weeks prior, but it finally had gotten to me that I can't remember who it was. I think it was the Authors of Pain when they came in. Obviously they're booked as monsters. We're supposed to boo them or something like that. So the first team they feed you is Breezango. So obviously if you're coming into Raw, or the Revival even, you're coming into Raw as a bad guy and we need to get you over, we're going to feed you to Breezango, or we're going to feed Breezango to you first. Obviously in the reverse, if you're coming in to Raw as a face tag team, we feed the Ascension to you first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt about it. And the Ascension aren't showing anything new, so I would assume that they're not going to get anything out of this. Now, the one thing we are seeing is that Chad Gable is still hella good, right?
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
He's very, very good in-ring worker.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not doing anything for Bobby.
It's getting him on TV. The end.
Yeah.
That's all you're really getting out of this. But yeah, I can't wait for Chad Gable to just get a singles run at a mid-card title, man, and just tear the house down. I don't know if he's even small enough to be on 205 Live, but man, oh man, would that make me interested in 205 Live. You got somebody like Chad Gable who's not doing a bunch of flippy shit. He's, he can moonsault, but he's basically a ground wrestler, man.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It'd be the same
really,
thing as
good one.
It'd be the same thing as pulling Enzo over to 205 Live, or having Neville show up on both shows, which we're getting to see that somewhat with Lio Rush too. Lio Rush is slowly but surely kind of developing into a character that maybe you would go back over to 205 to watch if you were like, hey, that guy that Kevin Owens can't get his hands on? It's like a Bugs Bunny cartoon. Well, he wrestles over in 205.
Yeah, he sure is showing that he's got a hell of a lot of charisma. That's for sure. And
yeah,
he's potentially a lot of fun. Now, again, this is a situation where they're using him in a one-note fashion so far as they're developing this thing. But it is making that whole KO Lashley rivalry a little more interesting. Although,
for sure,
KO on his own would be delivering great promos, I think, and instead we're seeing.
But we have that added feature of like, we all look at the situation and like, if Kevin Owens gets his hands on Lio Rush, Leo's dead, dead.
And it gives something for Elias to do in the short term, and I do like that KO will just kiss up to anybody who may be a potentially useful partner at the moment, right? Like,
yes,
I'm your biggest fan. Like before, it's his son is someone's biggest fan. Now I love your music. It's just whatever gets him through the week. It's just a fabulously narcissistic and heel-like.
Right. Always interesting to see Triple H and Stephanie McMahon on Raw, even if it was for a Connor Skewer segment, so not really for a storyline segment, but they did pull a little bit of story out of it, which was kind of cool. Right at the top of the show.
Yeah, they stripped the titles away from Roman Reigns and gave it to that child.
Is that what happened?
I
thought then Roman must have took it back from him, which makes him an uber heel. Just waiting for him backstage to be like, give me that belt.
That backstage heat is going to be hot.
Woo. But yeah, they right at the top of the show, Baron Corbin greeting him, and it was Stephanie McMahon's birthday, and Stephanie implying that she doesn't appreciate Baron putting himself in a title match.
Right.
Implying that maybe Kurt Angle could come back a little earlier than expected if Baron doesn't shape up. And then as they were leaving, having I think it was Kayla Braxton ask Triple H about the Super Showdown and have him just give a minute.
Yeah, it was a good. I mean, like that was probably for me the best of the promos leading into Super Showdown, just because it was concise, it was short, it was sort of in what I think of as Triple H's character at the moment, you
Sure.
know, which is, you know, in and out of the limousine.
Yep.
So I thought that worked really well.
And it was interesting leading into the show for them to set up right at the top of the show that Baron Corbin just has to find 2 tag team partners, and he's going to fight the Shield. We're going to see the Shield at the end of Raw as a unit, three man unit against Baron Corbin, Karen Borbin, and 2 men. What was your guess as soon as you heard it?
I didn't have one.
No?
I thought about it, but I didn't give it enough thought. Like, I wasn't literally pouring through the roster trying to create so when the AOP came out, it certainly was never that.
No, because that was my guess. That was almost immediately. I was like, the obvious thing is to put Drew McIntyre and Braun Strowman or something like that. Like, but Baron's got to have 2 big guys so that he feels like the deck is stacked against the Shield, kind of thing. But then Drew McIntyre had a match in the middle of the night. I'm like, well, that's going to be dumb if Drew has a match in the middle of the night and then it comes back at the end of the night to be in this tag team match. Not unheard of, but dumb when you have a full roster of people. And I was like, I hope it's the Authors of Pain. That would be good. I would like to see the Authors of Pain in their flak jackets against the Shield in their flak jackets.
Yeah, and after having to watch them through so many squash matches with local jobbers, it was fun to see them in a full-blown match.
Absolutely.
Not a great match, but satisfying enough. You know, it was sort of went as one would have guessed it would go.
Yeah, it gets the job done. And it was a kind of a weird ending to Raw, too, with Dean on the outside and the other 2 holding their belts up in the thing. And, like, the announcers are really trying to play up the, like, is Dean going to turn? Of course he's not going to turn like this.
Right.
This would be stupid. This would be a dumb heel turn. He's got to turn like Seth does with a chair to the back. All right, so I found this thing on Twitter that I was talking about a couple minutes ago. It says, pick 3 you want WWE to bring back to start. This is from at WWE Our Dream. And the pictures they show are Pyro, the big gold belt from WCW, 2-hour Raw, New Japan versus WWE, WWE versus NXT, the 24/7 hardcore title, pay-per-view sets, instead of just the same set with a different LED board, Talking Smack, and the Bullet Club.
Ooh, wow.
And you can pick 3.
Ooh. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Man, for me, I think I would want, the Bullet Club. I want the Bullet Club.
Right. I'm sure
I don't even care what you call them, really.
Right.
You know, it's not, for me, it's not the brand at this point. It's just the obsession.
Yeah, and the picture of the Bullet Club too is like, you can see here, it's like the current Bullet Club members. It's Cody and the Bucks, and whatever. So like I don't expect that, but at least put together the guys you've got.
Well, so what's your first pick there?
Talking Smack.
Talking Smack
Immediately.
I can't really argue with that.
Right off the top. My first pick was Talking Smack. I think my second pick was the 24/7 title because God, was that fun.
Yeah, same with me. Yeah, that would be my second title. And that was we didn't have the social media outreach where now literally they can have the title change and it can be a video that just pops up on YouTube or on Facebook or
Instagram or whatever. Right. I think Bullet Club was my third. I was like, give me Bullet Club. Hell yeah.
Yeah, boy,
pay-per-view sets don't bother me.
Pay-per-view sets is very silly.
The big gold belt, I don't have the nostalgia that other people have for it, like I do for the 24/7 title. And like Pyro, whatever. Somebody had pointed out to me that it's like Brock Lesnar looks stupid doing his goofy mashed potato dance without Pyro. I'm like, yeah, he does, but I don't care.
Yeah, no, he's
whatever.
Silly mashed potato no matter what.
Quite honestly, a 2-hour Raw can be 3 hours as long as shit's going on. I care about all 3 hours.
Yeah, boy, that might be my third pick, I have to say, because NXT versus Raw would be fun. It's easy to say you want NXT versus WWE, or New Japan rather, but who's booking that?
Exactly. Yeah, it's the same thing with the comics as like when they did Marvel versus DC, and even Stan Lee. Somebody had asked him before, like, who could be who, Superman or Captain America? And he's like, well, it depends on who's writing it.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, of course, comic books are a little different in that it's not a
it's not real people
event.
punching each other in the face. Yeah, legit sporting event with legit rules, and it's not like there's a man that gravity forgot in pro wrestling or anything. Oh, wait.
Well, he was, but gravity forgot him, and he floated away.
He floated
never
away
to be seen
like
again.
A balloon.
Thought he was going to be at All In, but he floated away.
All right, we've been dancing around. Let's get to the women's stuff that happened on Raw. Alicia Fox getting against Nia Jax. Alexa Bliss out on the outside and not part of the Mixed Match Challenge this year. Had to be replaced with who did they replace her with last week? Ember Moon, who was on the outside for Nia Jax. But then Mickie James replacing Sasha Banks, yeah. Sasha Banks out with a undisclosed injury.
For this week's show, Mr. Bean would be playing the role of Shonny Constant.
There you go.
Forgetful Shonny Constant.
Absolutely. But the part that absolutely infuriated me, and I'm sure anyone who listens to the show could see this coming, is the Riot Squad against the Bellas and Natalya.
So you're a huge Riot Squad fan.
I love the Riot Squad. I love all 3 members of the Riot Squad. They are my girls, and you know what? I have given Charlotte a bunch of shit on this show.
Yes.
I take it all back. Brie Bella is my new villain.
Yeah, you and the rest of the internet. And at first I was thinking, well, maybe the concussor wasn't actually the villain and Liv Morgan leading into it and all yada. But no, yeah, you can't be kicking in the head. You got to know where you're kicking. I don't know what I'm thinking. And once you've kicked her once so hard that you've knocked her essentially unconscious, to then hit her with another one, to just be pistoning away without any regard whatsoever for your opponent's well-being.
I've seen people on the internet say that Brie went out of time with the crowd, and that's why Liv ate one right in the face.
Trying to count.
Yeah, she would. Yeah, well, yeah. Liv is trying to react to the crowd yesing to each kick, and Brie just came with a early one before she could set up for the next one to sell it, and took one right in the nose. Really weird to hear Michael Cole talking about they took Liv Morgan back to the trainer's room when I can see her on camera.
That was really weird because they said it and then gave another 5 minutes a match, and then you see her, and when you see her on the side of the ring, she's essentially in a fetal position.
Yeah,
and the trainer looked concerned.
Yeah,
it was like, who decided not to stop this thing? They apparently, the report was they told the ref to not let her be in the match. Well,
yeah.
He's got a fucking job to do, and there's 5 other people running around doing dangerous shit.
Right.
Who's going to keep the loopy person from crawling back into the ring?
If there's one positive to take out of this entire situation, it's that when these things happen, it's interesting to watch the other people in the match and see who's got it, as far as who can keep going and put it in the back of their heads that, hey, somebody's hurt, but I'm still out on stage right now, and I need to finish this for the crowd.
A couple things that were interesting about this is, one, Liv especially going in for that big spot,
the suplex,
right? The triple suplex, because when she ends up rolling out of the ring, her eyes are still glazed over.
Oh, yeah.
She's lucky that didn't kill her. If she didn't get enough energy into that leap or whatever, something dangerous could have definitely happened. But the other thing was Ruby Riott taking over as the ring general of that thing and eating a shot from Brie Bella
and returning a shot,
delivering one back.
Yeah.
The most interesting thing on Raw next week is not going to have anything to do with the Universal title. It's going to be if Brie Bella and the Riot Squad continue to show are receipts being delivered,
if they have any interaction whatsoever.
Go back to straight professionalism.
Right. And it's also in a weird way for smarks like us, made the match at the Superstar Showdown between the Riot Squad and the Bellas and Ronda Rousey that much more interesting, because now, does Liv Morgan make it to New Zealand or Australia for this, or do they have to replace her with somebody? Once you get to that match, like you said, do we watch Brie Bella and Ruby Riott especially to see, is anybody laying them in real snug?
Yes, and I think that Ruby Riott is going to. She elevated herself to some. She's going. I think a year from now we'll look back on this moment and say this was the time when she sort of gained a folk hero status.
Yeah.
And I hope that she gets the TV time that she has been getting and is able to build on that, because she deserves it.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that I can't remember what it was once again the Brie Bella spot where she was supposed to leap out of the ring, and like I explained a couple of weeks ago, like if you watch that spot over, Brie Bella obviously was supposed to catch a forearm from Sarah Logan or from Ruby or whatever like that, and they weren't in place, so that's why she just kind of flopped over the rope and out of the ring. But this is one after another for Brie Bella, where it's like, I don't know if it's ring rust, I don't know if you're just clumsy or what, but you obviously need to get your shit together if
Something.
you're going to be on TV on a weekly basis and it's not a reality show.
Right. No,
I mean, you can go back to your reality show, and that's fine. But if you're going to be in the ring, you can't be making people look like shit, and you certainly can't be hurting people.
Except for this has gotten a huge amount of talk and probably will draw some interest.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I know one of the things that had come up on Twitter was right after on the Bella's Twitter account, there was a non-apology.
That was very strange, yes.
A very strange non-apology, just like it was something, and then Liv Morgan in our thoughts tonight kind of thing. It's like, well, you could say, sorry I kicked you in the face.
Right. No, it seemed like what a Hollywood... what are the there's a specific I
forget it.
Keep moving. Yeah.
Forget it. But the other thing that I saw is Corey Graves was on Twitter last night talking to people about this and had some great takes on it. It was let me scroll it up here, but I know he ended it with the idea of here it is. Remember that time you had a bad day at work and all the internet decided to tear you to shreds because they know better than you about your job?
Right.
That's a good point. I got to give it to Corey on that one. But he also said that he'd gladly die on this hill, about the fact that, like, look, accidents happen. Especially in this day and age full of experts, accidents happen. I had my career ended because of them, and I harbor no ill will. It's not ballet. Screw everyone that thinks they know can do better.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we can, like I said, I can jokingly say Brie Bella is my new villain, and I don't like Brie Bella because she hurt one of my girls. But at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. It's a bad day at work. Brie Bella has obviously had multiple bad days at work in the last month or so.
Sure, yeah, no, it harkens back to Seth Rollins had several bad days.
He did.
In his
yeah,
year.
If you're a Sting fan, you hate Seth Rollins.
Right.
So.
And whoever said, yeah, go ahead and buckle bomb the 56-year-old man.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I think the indignation is overblown, but I usually do.
Sure.
So that's.
Yeah.
But it is interesting, and it is
whenever you add a bit of realism to the sports entertainment that we have, whether it's something as scary as somebody getting knocked out or something as real as as somebody going to give somebody a receipt because they took a shot too hard or something like that. When things get a little more heated in the ring than they're supposed to.
Right.
It always makes it a little bit more interesting for us at home or for
I
us in
think
the crowd
this is
watching.
The perfect time for them to go with the Vince Russo style work shoot angle on this rivalry.
And it's been a while since we've seen a good work shoot. I got to say, I loved Matt Hardy and Edge and Lita, that crazy triangle from years and years ago, where Matt and Lita were an item, and then he found out that Lita had been cheating on him with Edge, and threw out of the house, and then he got fired a couple of weeks later, and then the crowd kind of would just chant "You screwed Matt" at Edge or Lita separately, so they put them together to try and cut down on the chants, and then eventually we're like, all right, there's business to be made here. If we can get the two guys and her in the ring, and you guys can work, there's money to be made, and they did.
And how was that rivalry?
It was pretty neat. It was some of the booking is questionable, but it was one of those things where when you watch those guys, those hockey fight kind of elbow throws that we see from like Sammy and Kevin or something like that. That might be one of the first times I saw that, where somebody would grab the back of somebody's head and just lay elbows into them. And man, oh man, did they look snug. It was always a matter of like, I wonder if he hit that guy really hard or not.
I like listening to I can't remember who he was interviewing. Stone Cold. I was listening to him on his podcast talk to Booker T.
Okay.
And it was funny as they were discussing a sort of famous incident that took place when Booker T first came over from WCW, and there was
I can clearly see it in my mind.
It's really worth listening to because they both had a different understanding of what happened, and so Stone Cold cleared the air. But what I thought was funny about the thing was I don't recall who it was. I believe it was Booker, but it could have been the other way around, who said, I don't think I was ever stiff. I mean, I might have been a little snug.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
We think of the things as being essentially the same, right? Because we're not in that world.
Yes.
But, you know,
yeah.
in
There's
that
a
world, there's
there's
different.
a very thin line between like, woo, I felt that one, and hey, now, hey.
Right. Like we can say, oh yeah, he was throwing potatoes because we've heard people say
Right.
potatoes were being thrown, but we don't technically know what precisely is
Right.
a potato.
Yeah, and I'm sure it differs from from individual to individual.
Sure,
Yeah. Some guys they'll just take it and be like, all right, let's do this,
Right,
kind of
right.
thing. But other guys are like, hey man, come on now, I got a very pretty face. I got in WWE. I got another Marine movie to do. So don't be there's a moneymaker, man. Don't be messing with the moneymaker.
The Miz.
You
Well,
want-
luckily, the Miz never has to face the strongest punch in WWE because
He
his own.
has it.
Yes.
Yes, for sure. He may have to face it on Ms. and Mrs. If he messes up another wedding cake or something.
Yeah, we haven't gotten there yet, though.
Right, exactly. You want to take a dance break?
I do want to take a dance break.
Dance break!
Dance break.
Oh, no. Yes!
Hello?
Hey,
All right, we're back. That's a heck of a dance break.
that was a really long dance break. It was much longer than anyone anticipated.
It was long for us, not for you at home, obviously.
No, through the magic of the internet.
But we are very thankful that you stuck with us
Yes.
through our dance break. This is another week where whoever is booking or writing or however you want to put it, whoever is putting together the SmackDown show and some of the segments in the show definitely has their finger on the pulse of what I want out of wrestling more than whoever's doing it over on the Raw side.
Yeah, the mix between the action beats and the comedy beats are all working really well. We're
Right.
developing these big stories over in SmackDown.
Yeah, there's a little bit more soap opera going on in
Yeah.
some of the stories there, which I'm here for. Like, I like a little bit of story leading up to my fight. And I just, from the Truth TV stuff to we talked about the Becky Lynch stuff is real fun to watch. And then the we had Sheamus and Big E fighting for the just for singles, but they're going to be the Bar versus the New Day.
Right.
At
The Bar has won back-to-back without really resorting to a ton of heel stuff.
No, not really. The most heelish they've gotten is to post selfies.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
either while the match is going on or after the match is over.
Yeah, so it's like you had them put into mothballs for quite some time, and now they're coming back strong. And
Yeah.
Like, interesting.
It's strange to me because I still don't see them pulling the belts off the New Day, but the New Day are also in a position where they don't need the belts anymore. Like, whatever they're doing, whenever they show up, I'm here for it.
And the only other option is to put the New Day against the Usos again, which they have all been great matches, but I don't know that people are clamoring to see it again. It's not as though the Bar is like, yawn, it's just the Bar, bring me the Usos back, right?
Right.
It'll be fun to see how this goes. I think they obviously have the potential of putting together a great title match. What they do from there will be very interesting to see because they spent so much time building up the Hammer Brothers.
Yeah.
That
And then that's obviously one of them being injured means that's not going anywhere.
Right,
The SmackDown Tag Division is real interesting, honestly, because so many of the tag teams, whoever's not fighting for the title, typically you don't get to see on Raw unless they're in the middle of some kind of story. But all of them, the Usos, Sanity, the Club, the Bar, like they could show up after weeks of not seeing them, and you could tell me they're fighting for the titles, and I'll be like, okay, that makes sense.
it's like a shallow pool.
Yeah, but it's not like a Jinder Mahal kind of thing where it's like, what do you mean he's fighting for a title kind of thing?
Right.
Like we haven't seen the Club other than being in YouTube videos in probably over a month. But if they showed up right after Super Showdown and said, hey, leading into Saudi Arabia, it's going to be the Club versus the New Day, I'd be like, all right, cool.
Yeah. Maybe the Colognes.
Yeah, they're the one surprise for me.
The oft-forgotten Colognes.
Right, absolutely. The big story, the other, we talked about Truth TV, we talked about the Carmella stuff, but the big story that's another one of those like, hey, this is what I want out of my wrestling show is obviously what happened in Milwaukee.
Yes, and it's funny to see how the internet is saying, I can't believe they're going to this kind of story, the salacious old.
Right.
He didn't say anything. He didn't say
No?
there was not even a hint that it was a one-night stand. Other than, I mean, the inference obviously is there.
Yes.
But I think that it just as much could have been to inflame the righteous as it was to,
All he said was ask your wife about Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And then he dropped the mic.
Mhm.
It could be anything.
Right.
Absolutely anything. She could have spent a whole bunch of money on his credit card.
Yeah.
In Milwaukee. Who knows?
Who knows?
I like that somebody had,
Playing poker with the Beer City Brawler.
yeah, somebody on Twitter had pointed out that the last time SmackDown was in Milwaukee, Lana was in a 5 or 6 person match, but both Rusev and Aiden were not. So that lends itself to something a little bit different.
Yes.
Though
in Milwaukee, when you got to wrestle and we didn't.
Right. But do you think they're really selling a lot of like Aiden Day shirts?
No.
In the same way that
I
they
sure
made
don't.
Lana Day shirts?
I sure don't.
I don't think that's
and
a
I
thing.
think that regardless of where they're going with this angle, my expectation is that the punchline is going to be terrible.
Probably.
I'm keeping my fingers
typically
crossed
is.
that I am mistaken.
It's
and that
typically
it's not-
Katie Vick. And I don't know if that name resonates with you
No.
whatsoever.
No, what happens there?
Okay, so Jesus, years and years and years ago, during the very first roster split, Triple H had the big gold belt over on Raw, and when it came time around this time of that year, at a No Mercy for Kane to be the number 1 contender, Triple H pulled out the name Katie Vick, and Kane was a big face at the time. So the idea was that when Kane was a younger man, he got into an accident drunk driving, and his girlfriend Katie Vick was in the car with him and died, and that he bore a lot of guilt over that. It was trying to get in Kane's head, kind of thing.
Gotcha.
But they went way overboard, and Triple H filmed a segment wearing a Kane mask where he fucked a mannequin in a funeral parlor that was supposed to be Katie Vick. And it was awful.
Oh, wow. I thought for sure that was going to end with some.
No.
No.
It was absolutely terrible, and that's my example for, like, most of the times the punchline not as good as you want it to be.
No, and it's like when you put on the network and it says, hey, the stuff that happened here is not part of our corporate PG era, and they don't necessarily the stories presented don't represent our corporate views or the real lives of the performers. Like, how you can you disavow it not only as the authorship, the publishing rights, the profits made, and the people participating in it. Like, really? So what does it represent then?
Mayor Glenn Jacobs did not fuck a corpse, is what they're trying to tell you.
His opponent would have dropped that promo. Could you?
That would have been some mudslinging right there, for sure. Did you or did you not, sir?
The only question I have is this: Katie Vick. Leave it to all the voters to go look it up.
To go into their Google machine and Google Katie Vick and just be like, what the hell happened here? Speaking of what the hell happened here, Ty Dillinger?
That's okay. So Ty Dillinger makes a rare appearance, gets beat, which is not rare.
Not rare, not at all.
Not rare. When he makes his appearance, he is going to get beaten. But yeah, this worked really well in the building of the Orton story. In that, I think everyone universally had the same response. The smarky among us, at least, were like, what? Ty Dillinger is your escalation? Like, how you...
Right. You're going from Jeff Hardy to Ty Dillinger?
Yeah, and to then have him say, I just hate that 10 thing.
I know.
That was a good punchline. That worked for me.
Almost insulting when he was backstage if Ty Dillinger was his next victim. And he got this look on his face. I was like, no.
Right. Yeah.
Ty Dillinger. I was like, oh, that's rude. That's super rude to Ty Dillinger. Yeah. And I'd forgotten that Ty Dillinger was Truth Straight Man up until, him and Carmella were a thing. And he didn't even get to be on Truth TV.
No.
What a bad Tuesday night for Ty Dillinger.
No, Ty Dillinger's out was that.
Yeah.
Again, Nakamura is just twisting in the wind. I mean, he was able to deliver, to show how heel he was by delivering the Kinshasa.
Yeah.
But
and bouncing the back of Ty's head off the LED board down the ring. I was like, ooh, that's a rough spot, especially 24 hours removed from Liv Morgan eating a kick in the face.
What do you think of the Samoa Joe promo? It is creepy at this point. It's effective in that he's doing the job great.
Yep.
But he's setting up okay. So this week he essentially set up an invasion.
Yeah, a home invasion where he didn't actually invade the home. He just showed up on the front doorstep.
Yeah, and it's like, boy, I've seen a lot of home invasion movies, and they don't usually end well for the people in the house.
Yeah.
This is real creepy, sir. Real creepy.
No, he just did what do they call it when you ring the bell and you run away?
Yeah, ding dong ditch.
Yeah, he just did a ding dong ditch. That's all that's going on. We didn't know because SmackDown ended right there when he rang the bell, which is a cool place to end it. Ever since this started, I was like, Joe's got to show up at the house.
I think
Joe's got to show up at the
next
house,
week's
man.
promo should be AJ arguing that Samoa Joe clearly did not sign the contract for the next match as he was not there, and
That's
so
fair.
fuck him, he's off the card.
That's fair.
I'm done with this man. Have him arrested.
Yep. Did we miss anything? Oh, Asuka and Naomi over Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose. It was pretty quick. Good to see Asuka on TV.
Yes, I like that Asuka's back and that Asuka is winning.
Yeah.
She's come back. She has not lost any of her fire in terms of her
not at all.
performance, and I hope that they don't waste it this time.
For sure.
I don't
And
know
then
where they go with it, but yes, give me Asuka.
we also got to see Becky destroy Lana.
Yeah, that was
Which is if you're gonna be the new champ and you're gonna be kind of heelish, good place to start is the weakest link in the division. Just annihilate them.
And it sort of tied everything together. You know, Becky had to she got to be uber heel a couple of different times. Lana got to be part of a couple different different threads of the story.
Sure.
I like that it's all tying together. It's all working really well.
All right. Well, I missed NXT this week. What did I miss?
Keith Lee jawed with Kona Reeves. Loved that because I love seeing Keith Lee on my TV. Really, that's the most important thing. There was some other stuff, yakety schmackety. Regal came in and started discussing the investigation with Aleister Black, and the Undisputed showed up and confronted him and got lippy, and it was fun stuff. They're really just setting up War Games.
Do they have a match officially for War Games yet?
They have not yet established one.
Okay.
I'll be interested to see if ultimately, because they set up in 2 weeks' time, we're going to have Cole's going to get his rematch with Ricochet for the North American title, but also Pete Dunne is going to be involved because Cole had, rather the entire Undisputed Era had wrecked that match last week.
Right.
And then Roddy Strong and Kyle O'Reilly are going to face the War Raiders.
So they're essentially getting punished for wrecking the match last week.
Yes, and so the interesting is that the third team going to be Dunne and Ricochet. That's a power-packed team in terms of.
That's what I'm trying to remember. Was War Game last year like 3 4-man teams?
I don't remember how they shake it out. I don't
remember either.
I thought it was 3-man teams, but it doesn't. I don't know.
Or like 3 3-man teams, maybe.
Yeah,
because I think
that's what I thought it was.
I think the old school WCW ones used to be like 2 4-man teams.
Okay,
so
yeah, I think there was 3 3-man last year, but I don't know who you would put with the War Raiders. Of course, there's still time, so
it's true.
That's what they're working towards.
It's Survivor Series weeks or weekend, so they've still got months.
And the highlight of the thing, I think, was there was a lot of good story development. If you're enjoying the NXT stuff, you should watch this week. But more so for there's just a lot of little, just much like SmackDown. There's a lot of little stuff with Regal, and you see a lot of people doing like short promos, and so a lot of building towards something bigger down the line. But the Tommaso Ciampa faced Otis Dozovich of the Heavy Machinery.
Okay,
who is to me is very much. He's a big, giant bruiser, but he does great comedy, physical comedy.
I was going to say, he's the guy that does the worm, isn't he?
Yes. Yeah, they call it the Caterpillar.
Okay.
In line with the Heavy Machinery.
Yeah.
And it is a very fun match. Well worth seeing.
Yeah.
Well worth seeing. He puts on a hell of a show.
And what's it like watching Tommaso Ciampa essentially fight from underneath? Because this is a much bigger man.
It's interesting, for sure. But yeah, he uses his shrewdness, and I will say that he's able to deliver some moves onto Otis that really it works, man. It just really works. Tommaso has to, like, he delivers several knees to Otis's head, which Otis is able to kick out from, but
yeah,
it's just it's sheer persistence and like piss and vinegar, right? Ciampa, if we hear that phrase, Ciampa is like the embodiment of piss and vinegar.
Sure. And
he's got the new theme song, which you get to see him come out to. It all really works. It is a lot of fun.
Nice.
That is the headlining match, and it's, even if you don't want to watch all of the stuff leading up to it, which is worth seeing. There was the Mighty versus the Street Profits. They have a long-standing rivalry. There's been a lot going on with it. I just don't care. I don't like either of these teams. I'm just not into these teams, either one of them. Montez Ford does incredible topes, like over the top rope.
Okay.
And it goes super high, but that's all all the rest of the Mighty's been stealing their gear, their jewelry, and they're mixing cups and they're fighting. It's like, like all the drama that you should enjoy is there.
It sounds like preschool.
It's just both. Yeah.
I'm going to steal your coat. I'm going to steal your lunch.
Yeah.
I'm going to steal your crayons.
Sippy cups. Yeah, it's just not working for me. But in terms of just objectively, is it a good match? It is a good match. It's an effective match. So we're seeing,
Well, I know last week I was riding real high on both the Mae Young Classic and the Mixed Match Challenge. This week didn't deliver as much in my mind.
On either of them?
On either side.
Okay.
But still worth seeing.
Mm-hmm.
The Mae Young Classic, the last 4 matches of round 1, we got to see Rachel Evers, who's the daughter of Paul Ellering, who most recently was the manager for the AOP before they decided to get a poodle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she fought Lady Godzilla. It was very kind of a slow match. Like right off the get-go, I was like, meh. This is kind of slow.
It's interesting because Rachel Evers is a power lifter, but she doesn't have she's not a monster in terms of size.
Yeah.
So you don't think of her as a brawler.
No.
When you bring out
absolutely
someone
not.
whose nickname is Lady Godzilla is more sizable, and so you automatically are primed to think brawler.
Yeah.
I thought it worked though, but I have to say I do like Rachel Evers. I am a fan of Rachel Evers from last year. I believe she had a match in NXT outside of the.
I think so. Yeah. And we saw a lot of talent in this week in particular that we've seen in NXT.
Mm-hmm. Tanera Conte has been in NXT recently.
I think she's got a great look. I think she's we've even seen I think wasn't it last year that there was a couple of weeks where she was hanging out with the Undisputed Era.
Oh, I don't remember
which
that.
was kind of a thing. I don't remember who. I think at the time they might have been feuding with Sanity, so it was trying to set up like a Nikki Cross and her into a thing.
I don't recall that.
Yeah, but
what do you think of Jessie Elaban?
I love her look.
She is fun. She's silly, goofy, clumsy.
Yeah,
a little bit glamorous, a little bit clumsy.
Yeah, exactly. But if anybody who misses CM Punk's now wife AJ Lee, she's definitely got that kind of like she comes out with a flannel shirt and some glasses, and she's just kind of like. I want to see her, and she's got some kicks too. So I want to see her and Dakota Kai. I want to see her with Team Kick together. And if you could get the 3 of them, or them and Bayley together as a faction of just like the opposite of Mean Girls, then all right, that'd be fun.
Corey Graves will lose his mind.
You will. He is a huge fan of Mean Girls.
Apparently so.
A huge fan. Nicole Matthews and is it Isla Dawn or
Isla Dawn?
Isla Dawn. I really liked Isla Dawn. I was very happy to hear that she's part of NXT UK because I think she should be.
She was interesting. Like when they were hyping her and discussing, where her motivations are coming from. I was like, oh, I can dig this.
Yeah.
But then it didn't shine through in the match all that well. Now,
Not so much.
Nicole Matthews she's just like a relentless heel.
Yeah.
And the talk on the commentary, man, the commentary is so damn good. It really.
Oh, for sure. It fills in the blanks, especially in the first round for these girls that you don't have a whole lot of history other than this, 60-second promo video leading into it to kind of be like, well, I like her because they say she's a witch.
But Beth Phoenix and Renee Young are not only passionate about the product, but just nail it. They're not like stumbling. That's the problem. The problem we've had with so many of the recent announcers on SmackDown and Raw is that they're either boring and seem disengaged, or they have a hard time like keeping up with the patter.
Sure.
Where these 2 women are establishing the patter, they're keeping it flowing, and they're passionate.
Yeah.
It's like this is a great broadcasting team, and Michael Cole is even shining.
I was going to say, for as much as over the years people would shit on Michael Cole as far as being bad at it, it's really interesting to watch him take a little bit of a back seat with the Mae Young Classic and let the women kind of drive the car and just add in his 2 cents. There was even a segment during one of the matches where he had a story that he was trying to get out, but the action was moving so fast he just had to drop it and move on.
Yes, I caught that. Now, did you catch in the last match when the second Meteor was dropped?
Oh, I did.
And Michael Cole, he goes, and he didn't want to say Meteor. You can tell he didn't want to say Meteor again. Like I could picture Corey Graves in his head.
Yeah.
And he stopped himself from saying Meteor again, but didn't have a really good way to describe the scene.
Corey Graves is renting space in Michael Cole's head.
Major props. not in how beautifully he executed it, because it wasn't, but major props for him to realize that he was about to do the thing, stopping himself from doing the thing, and at least making it through the segment. Like through the he described the scenario without using the word again. It was hilarious.
That last match, though, that was the match of the or at least of this particular episode of the Mae Young Classic for me. Zia Brookside versus Io Shirai.
It was dynamic. See, I liked the Isla Dawn and Nicole Matthews match. It felt it was old school, although I could see it was not. It did not have Io Shirai and Zia Brookside was I was fully engaged with both characters and was like, boy, whoever wins this is over with me.
Yep.
The other one, I was like, neither one of them are really over with me, but they're putting on what I thought was they were doing great storytelling.
Yes.
In terms of gimmick and and moves and the flash, I liked Zia and Yo.
Yeah, for sure.
And both for sure have a future in the WWE.
I agree. Absolutely. And then the mixed match challenge, we got Team Asuka, which was Asuka and The Miz against the Fabulous Truth, which delivered everything except Carmella tapped out, but she did not get pinned.
No,
not by R-Truth, not by Asuka, not by anybody. There was some back and forth, which was kind of fun. I still say I'm really looking forward to Asuka when they lose a match, just beating up The Miz.
It could happen.
It's got to happen.
It is fun to watch those two interplay.
Yeah.
In week one, I thought it was fun to watch Braun and Ember work together.
Yep.
It's fun to watch the clash of The Miz and Asuka.
Right.
Now, it's interesting in that one because you have the faces and heels swapped between the genders, essentially, right? I mean,
that was what I was interested in watching the match, is like how quickly does Carmella have to resort to going back to kind of wrestling as a heel, because we expect Asuka to just bulldoze over her. Like, how quickly is Carmella going to have to hide in the ropes or do her screaming bit or something like that?
Yeah, or has she earned face status? You know,
right.
I mean, changing the hair color could be a sign of an evolving of the character behind the scenes in a way to represent that in the front. And is she over enough? With you, she is, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was one of those matches. I love seeing two favorites fight. And typically, I believe the WWE on the whole believes that we have to have a good guy and a bad guy whenever you're wrestling. And yeah, that's the easier story to tell. But I always love to see two good guys fight and then come out of it and be like, okay, you won. I mean, you see a bunch of that in the Mae Young Classic. Sometimes the crowd is solidly behind both competitors, and then at the end of the match, you saw Io Shirai pick up Zia Brookside and kind of give her her due for putting on a good match, kind of thing.
And the crowd did as well. Yeah, there was the crowd was chanting both of their names when they were over in the match, like when they were having their moment, and it was fun to see that swap on a dime, and then at the end, everyone just that really was both these guys kind of match, right?
It was really fun to see Asuka partake in the dance break. With Carmella and the
moonwalk
and R-Truth. Yeah, the Miz's moonwalk is definitely
very entertaining.
Miz is a very entertaining fellow. And speaking of a clash of styles, on the Raw side, we got to see Bobby Lashley and my girl Foxy against Mickie James and it was Mickie James and Bobby Lashley versus Foxy and the Maharaja.
Yes. Underwhelming star power in that match,
for sure. Absolutely, it's definitely one of those matches where it's like, I'm not super into all the players, but I'm interested to see, can you entertain me? And I thought there were definitely a couple of fun spots in that match. For sure.
No, it wasn't a drag by any stretch. I really, from the promo where Foxy said, "I am the captain of this team," she was over. Like, that was enough to be over with me. Like they're really playing up this sort of triangle of
Jinder and his little buddy.
Yes,
I
don't even know.
One of the Singh brothers,
right?
I
think it's Sunil. And Foxy, and I don't care about any of it. I just like Foxy screaming from time to time, which is weird because I did not like when it was Carmella. Just different strokes. But yeah, I think that it is definitely, though, fun. That I did not engage in that fully in the first season. I watched a few after they had appeared. But yeah, I like this format.
It's really fun.
It's fun. I like that it's the round robin, so we're gonna get to see some development
the teams multiple times. Yeah. I'm interested to see with the round robin format if it can keep my interest over so many months, as opposed to
certainly the crowd is more into it than they are when you see 205.
It's true.
Being the post SmackDown,
No, it's absolutely true. Because it's just it's a good time. It's you're essentially getting to see the dark match, which is what I said last.
I think
season
it's going to hold
of
our interest because we even though you will be like okay, so it's Jinder again.
Yeah, exactly.
First off, they have a chance to do something fun because of the loose nature of the format.
Yep.
And
you are going to get to see pair ups that you haven't seen yet or haven't seen at all. Eventually Bobby Lashley's going to fight Braun Strowman during the Mixed Match Challenge.
Yeah.
Haven't actually seen that happen to my knowledge.
No.
That I can remember.
Great point.
Kind of thing.
Great point. All right.
So that's this week in wrestling, WWE wrestling. You can, as a side note, I noticed, go on the network and pull up the first season of Mixed Match Challenge, because
yes, and actually you can watch I watched week 1 of the Mixed Match Challenge before week 2 aired on the network. Now I don't know how quickly it gets on there,
right?
But if you don't want to watch it on
Facebook Live,
right. Which arguably it's like I watched it on my phone and it was a bad stream.
It's kind of odd we'll have to look after SmackDown next week and see if they just air it on the network. I can't imagine they do.
No,
it's got to be. They got to have some kind of exclusive deal with Facebook where there's at least a 24 to 48 hour window where that's where you see it.
Yeah, I believe so. And I did not do the legwork to find out when it actually gets on there. But
right.
But
that's how
you can watch the week 1 for sure, and week 2 probably by the time you're hearing this will be available. So
yeah, that's how I'd found out about the first season being on there. Was going on the network to look something up and be like, oh, they're just playing all the season 1 today. Interesting. Shonny Constant, where can they find us on Facebook and Twitter?
Oh, they can find us at the One Fall Show Facebook group. They can find us at the One Fall Show on Twitter.
Yep.
Yeah.
We've got the super old guy showdown coming up next weekend. So
yes.
we'll have to use that not only for practice, but apparently I was called out on our Facebook group by one Brandon that said he called me the Brock Lesnar of the One Fall Show. And let me just say, Brandon, much like Brock Lesnar, I do care about our fans. I just don't care about you.
Whoa!
And I will gladly beat the crap out of you in a number 1 contenders free-for-all at the Melbourne, Australia WWE Super Showdown. Look, you said you represent the fans. Fans don't get to fight for title belts. You got to be the number 1 contender to fight for the title belt. You can't just walk in here and think you're going to take the Swedish Fish title. You're going to have to go through somebody, and that somebody is me.
That's interesting, because I get my mandatory rematch.
You do?
So I think this is going to have to be a triple threat.
Oh, you think so? Are you going to... All right, fair enough. That's this week's One Fall Show. Thank you guys for stopping by. Hit us up on our social media, which Shonny Constant gave you all the 411 on that. Find us on Instagram or on iTunes and give us all the stars and likes.
Yeah, screw Instagram, man. Find us on give us stars and find Mr. Bean on Nerd Radio.
Yes, the Nerd Radio podcast. I'm sure we'll be talking this week. We actually aired here in Detroit. We have Championship Wrestling League, which is their first show is this weekend. It is Big Cass's first in-ring appearance where he'll talk about what's gone on with him, I guess, which is what they're advertising.
Interesting.
As well as there'll be a whole bunch of other people that you know from Impact Wrestling or Ring of Honor or that kind of thing. None of the super big names, but they're putting together a new thing. They're gonna have a weekly show here with one of the one of my coworkers over at the radio station is going to be one of the commentators.
Cool.
So you can hear that in this week's Nerd Radio, and then next week we'll talk about the Superstar Showdown as well as everything that's been going on in wrestling. It's a different show. I always try and make sure that we talk about different things here than I talk about there. It's obviously different people with different opinions. So if you find some time in it or you're into nerd shit, which I can't say over there because I'm a radio professional, but I can say over here because we are not professional.
No.
Then you can download Nerd Radio on the WRF.com website.
Outstanding.
Right after you listen to this episode of the One Fall Show.
Have fun. Be safe. Don't fall in the hole like I have. Right in the hole.
Right in the hole. Punch him in the hole.
Right in the hole.